Today, I'm reacting to The Impossible Economy, which is a video about financial suicide. I think anytime I see stuff like this, I just want to see it and react to it. I do this on my own, but now I'm going to start just showing you how I view all this stuff.
Picture this. You're sitting in your room, scrolling through your social media feed, and you come across pictures of your relatives, friends, or just a random person boasting about their recent luxurious vacation or their newest Louis Vuitton bag that costs more than your annual salary. You can't help but wonder if you'll ever be able to afford something like that. Unfortunately, the odds may be stacked against you due to the changing economic landscape. Welcome to the harsh reality of modern economics, where a comfortable life may seem like just a distant dream. If you're feeling worried that you may never be able to achieve the same level of wealth as your parents, cousins, or friends, well, you're not alone. In recent years, a growing number of people have expressed concern about the widening income gap and the increasing difficulty for upward mobility.
You could definitely see this with inflation. The easiest way to look at it is, the price of eggs, stuff like that, right? Like from one year to the next, the price changed a lot. And if your income didn't change that much, then you have to work more to have the same things, let alone have more. You have to work way more to have more than you did last year. So this is one of the scary factors of, understanding inflation. As an individual business owner, my content is mostly around business owner and what we could do. But individuals as well. All business owners are individuals. We got into business because we want better for ourselves. But if you don't understand, like, you have to figure out how to beat inflation and not with your time, then you're never really gonna get to view those type of sceneries we just saw.
90% of the wealth is right here in the top. Now, the upper middle class and the middle class, they share one piece. So these guys, they've got about 80% of a piece. They get 20% of a piece. And then the lower middle class, they've got 0.3% of a piece. Yeah, they got some crumbs there. There you go. That's what they get. And the poorest, they have no pie. In fact, they have less than no pie. They actually have a bill for pie. They're in pie debt.
So this is always important to understand when they show these, like, um how much the wealthy have, how much the middle class, lower middle class. They're talking about assets. They're not talking about how much cash in the bank people have. So I see this a lot. Like they'll be like, "Oh, how come Elon Musk has $300 billion?" He doesn't have $300 billion in a bank account. He has $300 billion, mostly of shares of stock in multiple companies added up to 300 billion worth of stock. He would literally have to sell all of his stock in all those companies to actually have $300 billion, but he would instantly kill those companies if he did it. So that's really never going to happen where the Jeff Bezoses of the world, Bill Gates, they're just gonna sell all their shares to their stocks. That's just not gonna happen. So I think there needs to be a different way they break this down, because yes, they have that those shares, but they can't take 100% of them. And I'm not saying that it's still not egregious. It is, but I'm more saying the way they calculate this stuff, if you don't have assets, you don't even show up on these lists. That's why they say the poor. And then he just said they have a debt, right? So basically, it's either you have assets or liabilities. So what ends up happening is the poor end up with more liabilities. They buy cars, they buy homes they can't afford, they buy shoes and bags they can't afford. So they end up, instead of having assets, they have debt. So there's debt and then there's leverage, right? And then there's people who buy assets and then buy assets with leverage, like real estate mostly. And now you can kind of do this with crypto and stocks. But when they do these kind of charts, the real truth is it's mostly about assets. So the game is about getting as many assets as possible. And these super rich people, their assets are mostly the stock in the companies that they've built and put in a public market where people can buy them and pump that stock. So that's a big thing to understand, especially as a business owner. And this is why I always say entrepreneurs have to understand about investing, and investors have to understand about entrepreneurship. So when you see these wealth things, always think, okay, yes, they have that value, but what could they take out right now? A lot of these wealthy people, they'll borrow off their stocks instead of selling them. Sometimes they will sell them. But Elon has been very, very clear about I borrow off my stock to live. And it makes sense to do that, right? Why sell a stock and pay taxes when you can borrow off of it? Especially if you have $100 million, 100 billion. You can borrow $1 million a day, no problem, you know? So this all is the way to think about it. It's not really like the wealthy have like Elon Musk doesn't have $300 billion sitting in his bank account, basically.
They owe pie.
With the added impact of the COVID-19 pandemic, this topic is no longer just a subject for economists, but has become an increasingly pressing issue for individuals just like you and me, young generations born between 1990 and 2005, who are navigating an ever challenging economic landscape.
So, according to that survey by Bankrate, nearly 1 in 3 Gen Z workers are not actively saving for retirement. And they're not the only ones. According to the survey, millennials who are saving, they feel like they are behind.
Another level, and it's having an impact on how confident people are feeling about their finances.
The amount of student loan debt Americans hold is at a record high. Much of it is shouldered by millennials, people now in their late 20s and 30s, which means that young people coming along behind them in what's called Generation Z, those born after 1996, are facing some tough choices about how to pay for college.
So this is a big thing. College, I just saw a stat that said I think it's like 80%, 70, 80% of people who went to college didn't feel like their degree was worth the cost. So they basically got out and they weren't able to get the types of jobs they thought they would be able to. And now they're like, man, I paid all this money and now I got to pay it back. And I'm not even making enough to cover my costs, let alone to pay this debt off. So this is where there's all these pieces to the puzzle that make it difficult. But at the same time, there's always a way to get out of these situations. Just, it's a little hard right now because there's not as many jobs, depending on where you look, right? Of course, they're saying there's jobs people don't want to do, and there's jobs people can't do because the skill gap is there. And then, of course, we throw in AI, which is kind of slowly taking away other kinds of jobs that are pretty popular. We're heading into this weird time, and it's good to just make sure you understand what your options are and make plans.
The global economy has undergone a significant transformation over the past few decades, especially after the 2008 financial crisis, which affected job opportunities and income potential for individuals and families worldwide. This has led to a growing divide between the rich and poor, with many people struggling to make ends meet. You can check out our video on the top right or the link down below if you want to know the full story of the world-shocking financial crisis that occurred in 2008. In the past, the American dream often included a comfortable life with a nuclear family, where a typical man would have a 9 to 5 job that could support his wife, 2 children, a pet dog, a car, and a house. The idea of the American dream was that, with hard work, one could achieve a comfortable life and a bright future. However, in today's generation, both partners need to work even harder just to make ends meet. It's no longer enough to rely on just one job to provide for a family, due to the skyrocketing cost of living. Many jobs simply.
Yeah, I just saw there was a post I posted it on Instagram on my stories that now the American dream, what he's talking about here, costs $4.4 million. So if you think about that, before one person could work and earn that $4.4 million, in those days cost, which wasn't $4.4 million dollars. And now one person would have to do, and it's not like over the lifetime. I think it's like over a certain amount of years. Because again, your kids, you're gonna have to raise them, you have to buy a home, you're gonna have to have cars. So over, I guess over 20, maybe 30 years, $4.4 million dollars. So if you think about that as a way of, let's say, let's to make the math easy, $1 million a every 10 years with a little bit extra, let's say 1.5 million, no, 1.3 million, something like that. Uh, One person doing that means they have to make over 100,000 a year for 30 years straight, right? And that means like as soon as you come out of school. So that's hard because early years, most people do not earn that kind of money right out of school. And if you do, it's because you went to college for more than those years, right? So you get out of college maybe 24, maybe 25, and now you start earning that. So this this world has become, you got to work, two people have to work unless one person can earn a lot of money, basically over 100 and maybe 20, 30,000 a year, almost as soon as 20 years old kind of thing to get the American dream. This is because inflation and again, asset prices are growing, right? So if you bought a house even 10 years ago, that house is worth a lot more now. But buying it now means you have to have more cash and have to earn more money because now the interest rate is higher, the cost of the house is higher, the cost of groceries and maintaining that house is higher. So now every year you wait to buy assets, those assets grow in value, meaning you have to earn more to buy the assets. So now this is where it comes down to what assets should you buy as soon as possible and what assets can you buy as soon as possible.
Simply don't pay enough to support oneself, let alone a family. The American dream has become more of a challenge to achieve for many, and the gap between the rich and poor continues to widen. As a result, many young people have turned to side hustles.
What I think they don't say again is the gap in asset ownership. They don't mean only cash accumulated and generated. It does mean that as well. But there are people who earn a high amount of living. Like let's say you make $1 million a year, but you can also spend $1 million a year, and that doesn't mean you're wealthy or rich because you're spending as much as you make. It's the people that buy assets with their earnings that they're talking about.
Multiple jobs just to make ends meet. Working a 9 to 5 job is no longer enough to ensure financial stability, but rather just to avoid sleeping on the streets. It's not uncommon for people to work on their side hustles after work and on the weekends, which leaves very little time for rest and or relaxation. The idea of the American dream has shifted for this generation. Instead of a comfortable life with a nuclear family, the dream has become to simply be financially stable and not live paycheck to paycheck. This is a stark contrast to the past and highlights the challenges faced by young people in today's economic landscape. With that being said, the cost of living has increased dramatically over the past few decades, while salaries have failed to keep pace with these rising costs.
So this is where I had a conversation with someone that was using our app, Stackit.ai. If you want to use your money twice, go sign up for the waitlist. And if you're a business owner, we help you build Bitcoin and Ethereum treasuries. So I was talking to someone who was trying to get out of this situation. They're working, but they're not making enough to invest. And so I was just saying, look, you just need a little bit on top of whatever you're gonna spend. So if you're gonna spend $100 or something, you just need like 15, 20 more dollars, and we could invest $120 for you every month through the AI agent. And they were like, man, but only $20. I'm only gonna invest $100. How am I ever gonna get to wealth? And I said, yeah, eventually you're going to have to sacrifice more, and it has to go from 20 to 30 to 50 to 100 to 500 a month that you're investing on top of a bill. So like let's say you have $2,000 of bills, if you could put an extra 500, now you're investing $2,500 a month. And the person was like, I don't even know when I'm going to be able to do that, if I'll ever be able to do that. So basically, I'm too poor to invest enough to ever get out of this situation. So what I told that person was you just have to figure out how to create you have to get a skill that people are willing to pay you more for. And then you can make more so you can invest more. And that's where rich people get over. They'll make more every year. I literally heard somebody speaking the other day on a YouTube video and he's like, I invest 50% of my high net worth salary, my high salary. So imagine a person that makes $300,000 a year and they're able to invest 150K a year versus a person like I just told you who can't even invest $20 a month. That's why the wealth gap keeps growing.
A study by the Pew Research Center found that the cost of living has increased by 67% since 1990, while the median hourly wage has only increased 18% during that same period. Additionally, the cost of housing has skyrocketed in many areas, making it difficult for young people to afford their own homes. A study by Harvard's Joint Center for Housing Studies found that in 2021, the first full year of the COVID-19 pandemic, 47% of renters in the US were cost burdened, meaning they spent more than 30% of their income on rent. The study's findings highlight the alarming reality that almost half of US renters are living on the brink of financial disaster, unable
Not just renters, owners too, almost everybody. Basically, almost everyone cannot take a medical emergency that they may have to pay 50, 100K for, and it won't ruin them. Like literally have to sell your house, have to sell all your possessions, have a job that fires you and you're out of work for a long period of time. Most people are not able to do that. And that's where the wealth comes in, right? Because if you have all these stocks or shares in a company, you could sell them if they're worth, and then you can live off that or borrow, like Elon.
to withstand any unforeseen circumstances due to living paycheck to paycheck. The belief that a college education is the key to financial success has been a deeply ingrained idea in modern society for decades. Unfortunately, many young people in today's world are discovering that the reality is far from the truth. Not only in the United States, but all over the world, young people are facing an uncertain future despite obtaining higher education. The cost of education continues to skyrocket, and students are graduating with staggering amounts of debt that they will have to carry for years to come, and probably won't be able to pay off across their lifetime.
And we're starting with the price of college, a cost that's supposed to be an investment. By 2020, an estimated 65% of jobs are expected to require at least some college training, but that training has never been more expensive, with the average cost of attending a public college up tenfold since 1965.
As someone who holds a master's degree in chemical engineering, I know firsthand that the situation is made even more complicated by the fact that having a college degree is no longer a guarantee of financial success. Even with higher education, the job market is extremely competitive, and graduates are finding it difficult to land well-paying jobs that match their education level.
I saw this thing where they were saying Harvard graduates are having a hard time, which before those people would just have jobs before they even graduated. And now they're like 6 months without finding jobs, 8 months. So it's kind of a scary situation, and education on its own is getting upended with AI. Like I think that the future is more about showing what you can do than hoping to get hired based on your college. I think AI and all these things, like to be able to solve problems that people are willing to pay you for. This is why I really lean on entrepreneurship. I think most people are gonna have to become entrepreneurs because if you're gonna sit and wait for a job for 8, 9 months, figure out a problem somebody could pay you for. If you could learn these entrepreneurship skills, you won't have to go as long without money because you'll figure out ways of making it, and it could be at a high rate. Sometimes, most times, higher than if you got a job. So I think college and this is why I created MetaBronx, metabronx.com. Donate if you can. The idea is young people need to learn entrepreneurship skills, not only education. Because the truth is, most people anywhere are not going to get hired, but let alone in inner cities, urban communities. Like, there's no way that you can expect all of these minorities to get great jobs. There's no way. We all know it, but nobody wants to say it. And now that's creeping into all of America and the world. There's no way everybody's going to get a great job. And now with AI, that's going to start being a smaller and smaller percent. So what does that mean? There's still a lot of problems in the world. If you can figure out how to solve some of those problems for and give value to the person you're solving it for, they'll pay you. And then you earn a living from solving a problem, not hoping someone gives you a job. And then if you use that money that you're making to buy assets, you can become sustainable.
Falling deeper into financial depression and doubt, while people who don't have a degree were able to land a job with similar salary ranges. Many of today's wealthiest individuals, including Mark Zuckerberg, Bill Gates, and Steve Jobs, all dropped out of college and went on to achieve great success. This challenge,
Again, through creating companies. You don't really hear the stories of the people who dropped out of college and got great jobs. That's very, 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 very rare. Even more rare than probably guys that did what these people did.
is the myth that a degree is a surefire path to success, and young people are beginning to question whether or not obtaining a degree is worth the financial burden. According to a report by the College Board, the average cost of tuition fees as of 2022 was $10,560 for in-state public colleges and $37,650 for private colleges, resulting in the average borrower owing over $37,000 right off the bat, even before landing a job. Despite a staggering total student debt loan of $1.76 trillion in the United States,
As a father of three boys, two twins that have to go to college in a few years, this is terrifying because, like making people pay these big numbers and then hoping they get jobs that cover it. And then as a parent, you always want to pay for your child's, college. Well, I have two. This price is going up, and that's really hard. So on top of regular life it cost, you got two kids going to college at the same time. It becomes a crazy time in this world where you have to kind of make decisions like should both of my kids go to college, right? And again, I'm gonna leave that up to my kids. I'm not gonna make it seem like we can't afford it or whatever. It's really up to them to be happy. That's how I see it. With all this AI stuff, I think it's more about figuring out what you're gonna enjoy doing and figure out problems you can solve for people to make a living because we don't know what the job market is gonna be. Nobody knows. Even the top investors, the top smartest minds in the world are like, I don't even know what to tell my kids to do right now. Nobody knows. So I'm telling my kids, look, find the thing you enjoy. I'm gonna work to build a company that will hopefully cover your cost while all this transition happens. And this is where, as business owners, anybody who's watching this that is a business owner, your key thing to do is figure out how to get as much as that revenue that you're making into assets as early as possible because what's happening? Most people are seeing the inflation rise, and most very rich people, countries, businesses, banks, and they're moving their cash into assets that grow, outpace inflation. And this is what we have to do as individuals and business owners as well.
society still places an expectation on individuals to obtain higher education in order to compete in the competitive corporate world and attain a more desirable lifestyle. This reality has left many young people feeling disillusioned and hopeless, wondering if all of their hard work and financial sacrifice was for nothing. The pressure to succeed in today's world can be incredibly daunting, especially when the promise of financial stability is no longer guaranteed when compared to how our parents were decades ago. Despite this bleak outlook, it is important to note that education can still provide valuable skills and knowledge that can be applied to many different areas of life. However, it is crucial to recognize that a degree alone is not a guarantee of financial success any longer.
Yeah, what I'm telling my sons specifically is figure out what you're going to enjoy doing, but make sure it makes money, right? Like, don't go to college for something that doesn't make money. Because at the end of the day, if you go to college for like an art degree, what is that going to do? Like, and there's actually all kind of studies on this. And I went to school for design and animation, and I had to turn into a coder because I couldn't find work in that field. But I was able to find animation work that used code. So that was my like way of combining those worlds. And then of course I became an entrepreneur all the way down to I'm a finance bro. But the the path that I took was based on I want to enjoy what I do every day. And I don't want to only do something for money. And I think we're heading into a time where most people are not going to have to do something for money. They may have to do something to have a better life, but I think the baseline is going to start to have to be covered because if AIs are doing 80% of the work, what does that mean? People, the government and these companies are going to have to pay the baseline of most people. And then people are going to have to choose how high they want to live on top of that. And then you're going to decide, should I start a company? Should I create a problem? Should I find a problem to solve for money? Should I create art that people may want to pay for? This is the crazy time. But the truth is with this college question is, do you spend 140,000, 200,000? I know people whose kids are going to college and spending 250, $300,000. And when I hear the major, I'm like, I don't I don't really know how you're gonna pay that back. So this is a tough decision now, but I do tell my sons you should go to college because I do think learning how to learn and how to decipher information is important as you get older. And even if it is junior college versus a 4-year college where yeah, you're getting a bachelor's degree in something that may not make money, but if you're going to do something that makes money and you already have the connections, it makes more sense.
Do you ever find yourself scrolling through Instagram, seeing your friends, many influencers, or even your cousins living a life of luxury while you feel like you're stuck in square one no matter how hard you try? It's a common experience for many young people these days. We see a lucky few people posting pictures and videos of their lavish homes, expensive cars, and extravagant vacations, all thanks to that business they created, or maybe that Dogecoin they bought back in 2018, while we still struggle to make ends meet. And then there are those who comment on our situation, telling us that we just don't work hard enough, that we're not hustling enough, that we're not ambitious enough.
Yeah, 100%. This is really bad. I think part of social media's toxicity is the fact that a lot of this stuff can be proven. Like he just said, like if you see a person with a Lamborghini, right? To me, you're not rich unless you can continuously live the current lifestyle you live for the rest of your life. So if you have a Lamborghini and you have a uh, a multi-million dollar mansion, can something happen with your current finances where you can't have those things anymore? If that's the case, you're really not rich. You're just living a nice lifestyle for now, right? So if my lifestyle costs me $25,000 a month, and yes, my business can cover that right now, that's cool. But can I cover $25,000 a month for the rest of my life? That's rich to me and wealthy. And most of these people definitely are not that. They're buying something and showing it off, but they can't continue this lifestyle forever unless they have assets that cover that forever. And that you would need a lot of assets to cover that. Even rich people, super rich people, do not do that because of that. Warren Buffett does not have a Lamborghini. He has the same house he's had for 30, 40 years. The rich people do not live like that. Even Elon Musk, he's not driving around in Lamborghinis and stuff. So this is all like very made up, maybe even to seduce you into buying their product to show that they're successful. It's another thing I really hate. I hate that model of let me convince you I'm super successful so you want to buy from me, and society as a whole needs to get out of that. But it's hard because uneducated, financially illiterate people fall for that all the time.
They send us links and emails about courses that promise to teach us how to get rich, only to find out that the course costs close to $1,000. This is just another unguaranteed product that these so-called gurus are trying to sell. It's frustrating.
And I was one of these people. I never sold a product for that much, but some people told me I should, and I just didn't feel good about it. I didn't feel like I should charge $1,000 for something. And I had people, I started charging like $100 for it. And I had people who took the class and were like, I paid way more for stuff like this than you're charging. You should charge a lot more. And I actually made it free. I just said, you know what? I don't want to charge for this. And I also made software. I made Stack.AI to do what I was teaching for people instead of teaching them. Because another thing I saw was even when I charged $100, people weren't doing it. So imagine if I charged you $1,000 for something you weren't going to do anyway. I would feel very dirty about that. So I said, you know what? I'd rather create software that does what I was teaching. And if they want to use that software, they pay in proportion to how they use it. And if they don't use it, they don't pay. So I look at these people and I say, sure, I get it. And there are people who benefit from this. I do. I buy courses like this. I pay the thousands, but I do the work. And I know most people are not going to. And I'm fine with paying it because I think it does help me. But I didn't want to be selling it. And that could change, to be honest. It's a very wealthy, it's a very like lucrative industry. But what I saw was you make more money off people who are definitely not gonna do it. It's kind of like gyms, right? Like gyms will have a bunch of people members, and most don't come, right? But the gym makes a lot of money every month from people who just never show up. And I don't like that business model. I wanted to make a business model where it's a mutual benefit. If we do what you need, we get paid. If you don't want what we need, we don't get paid. And if you don't do it, you don't have any money that's not in your, in your possession anymore. When these situations, I paid for courses that I didn't do either. No, I paid like a few hundred, a few thousand, and I didn't do it. But then I will come back and do it. So again, I get all sides. But the truth is, if you're going to create a business, you're going to have to think about how you can benefit the customer more than yourself. And in these, I didn't really see that personally.
Frustrating to say the least. It can make us feel like we're not good enough, like we're not doing enough, even though we're trying our best. And when we see others who seem to have it all, it can be easy to fall into a downward spiral of envy and depression. Unfortunately, some people's desperation to make more money can lead them to fall into financial traps that can be detrimental to their financial well being. These traps may include making risky investments, overspending on unnecessary luxuries, or taking on too much debt without a plan to pay it off.
So this is another big thing. I think, as business owners, we probably don't tend to run into this, but some of us do. Once we start getting successful, start seeing revenue in our businesses or as individuals, we start having to look like we're more successful to prove to the world I am successful. And that is a slippery slope because now you have to buy the more expensive watch, the more expensive clothes every day, the better cars. And now when your business takes a dip, those things are like a liability to you that you may need to sell. Now you don't look as successful anymore. So it's like this hamster wheel that it's just better not to even get on. And you'll see a lot of these rich people, they don't do that stuff.
Engaging in these activities can result in a situation known as financial suicide, where a person's financial situation becomes so dire that it may be difficult or flat out impossible to recover. But here's the thing, the world's economy is not set up to make everyone rich. Some people will rise to the top, while most will be stuck at the bottom. And while hard work and ambition can certainly help, there are other factors at play, like generational wealth, systemic inequality, and the rising cost of living, as well as the opportunities that are given to you. Generational wealth refers to the wealth and assets that are passed down from one generation to the next. For many families, the accumulation of wealth is a process that takes years, if not decades, to achieve.
Not a lifetime, right? Like, again, if you I grew up as a minority. Like, my parents had to create wealth that me and my brother get to benefit from. Now, me and my brother have to create wealth that our kids can benefit from, building on top of our parents. But our parents were the first generation to be able to really do this. But if you come from a different ethnicity or place, that could have happened multiple generations ago, putting you in a much, much better situation. The truth is, what he said is right. Most people are just not going to be able to make it to be rich. It just doesn't make sense. The only thing I've seen that most people can do is invest, and most people won't. So if you're just one of the small percentage of people who invest, you will be more wealthy than most other people because most people are not investing, right? So this is where it comes down to putting your money, sacrificing as much money as you can into things that you believe will grow in value. The normal things are real estate, stocks, and now cryptocurrency. I tend to think cryptocurrency is the way out of this for most people because, again, they say, there's only 21 million Bitcoin, and if you own zero point zero 0.01 Bitcoin, you will have more Bitcoin than most people in the world, right? Because there's 8 billion people and there's only 21 million. So the way I see it is the more businesses, banks, countries start buying Bitcoin, any amount of Bitcoin I have is going to be worth a lot more than it is right now. So that's why I focus on crypto. It's up to you to do your own research on whichever asset class you believe is best, um, and start investing in it as soon as humanly possible.
However, even if you work hard and save diligently, it is possible that you may never be wealthier than your parents simply due to the changing economic landscape. One major factor that affects generational wealth is inheritance. When your parents pass away, they may leave you assets such as property, investments, or cash. However, this inheritance is not guaranteed, and in some cases, it may be limited due to the increased life expectancy or other factors. Additionally, inheritance may be subject to taxes, which can absolutely reduce the overall amount that you receive, unless you're from the British royal family. The current economic landscape poses a significant challenge for young people trying to build wealth. The combination of a changing job market, rising education costs, limited access to generational wealth, and the increasing debt and cost of living makes it an uphill battle. This challenge is not unique to the United States, but a global issue affecting young people worldwide, and it will only get worse in the decades to come. Though investing in education and career training can help, it's important to acknowledge that the economy is not designed to ensure everyone can become wealthy. The system is set up to create winners and losers, leaving most people at a disadvantage and potentially leading to feelings of depression and hopelessness. The current economic landscape presents a daunting challenge for many young people, leaving them feeling disillusioned about their future prospects. The cycle of increasing debt, rising costs of living, and limited access to generational wealth can feel like a never ending spiral of financial struggle. It's no wonder that many young people are left wondering if their efforts to build a better future are ultimately futile, resulting in making poor financial decisions that exacerbate the situation and lead to financial suicide.
So, in conclusion, the overall idea here is pretty bleak. I get it. Debbie Downer kind of stuff, but the real takeaway I see is We all can make some kind of money. And right now, you are able to do a lot of things that our past generation couldn't do. You couldn't just get up anytime and do Uber Eats, Instacart, um, remote work, right? Like there's all kind of options that give you abilities to make money. It is a hustle though, and you have to work pretty hard to make it happen, but it is an option. Before, our parents literally had to hope someone hired them and or create a business and have a lot of money up front to create that business. Now you can create a business with literally almost no money. You can do a social media page for free. You can make a website for free. You can make an app now using AI software. There's all kind of opportunity, but it's up to the individual to take it. And yes, most people will not make it. So the real truth is try to figure out how to invest as much of the money you have as possible while you're able to make it.